Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Pearls of Mahua, which intends to give you a flavor of different audiobooks and stories in my mother tongue Hindi as well as English. Today I feel really happy to read a short story by a Nobel laureate, Toni Morrison. She was awarded Nobel Prize for her amazing contribution to the literature. She also has been awarded Pulitzer Prize for her novel Beloved. Toni Morrison actually has not written a lot of short stories, and she actually has rarely written short fiction. And I think I do have a reason why I'm starting with her short story. Well, I have a confession to make. 2 decades back, when I was in college, I tried to read Toni Morrison, but I have to say I found it very complex and I couldn't understand, couldn't gather much from what she was writing. And after a few pages, I had stopped. But I think there cannot be a more appropriate time than now to look at her work and see how, as an African American writer, although she has said in several interviews that she would never want to be introduced and identified as an African American writer or even as a woman writer, but still I think these are the two realities which do provide us a framework to look at her work. Today I'll be reading one of her stories called Sweetness, and actually it's not like a short fiction because she has rarely written fiction, as I told you earlier, but this is an excerpt from her book written in 2015, and the name of the book was God Help the Child. And this short piece, which actually can stand alone and it will make complete sense on its own also, was published in the New Yorker in 2015, I guess. Yeah. As I said, I have not read much of Black or African American literature, but still I'm able to relate with the theme of the story because in some other cultures too, girls are raised with extreme precaution because it is assumed that they should not be given a complete and absolute taste of freedom, or immeasurable freedom should not be given to girls because at some point they have to go through pain and they have to suffer. So they have to be raised with a lot of caution and limitations. So I can completely understand how this mom, who has called herself as Sweetness in this story, in this character, being a mom of a black girl who raises her daughter with extreme precaution and sensibility so that the girl knows what to expect from the society when she grows up, because a mom assumes that because her daughter is dark skinned, she will be exposed to different types of injustice. So that's why she's always very conscious about how she's raising her daughter. So I think this is a very sensitive piece. So here we go with this story. Sweetness by Toni Morrison. It's not my fault, so you can't blame me. I didn't do it and have no idea how it happened. It didn't take more than an hour after they pulled her out from between my legs for me to realize something was wrong. Really wrong. She was no black, she scared me. Midnight black, Sudanese black. I'm light-skinned, with good hair, what we call high yellow, and so is Lula Ann's father. Ain't nobody in my family anywhere near that color. Tar is the closest I can think of, yet her hair don't go with the skin. It's different, straight but curly, like the hair on those naked tribes in Australia. You might think she's a throwback, but a throwback to what? You should have seen my grandfather. You should have seen my grandmother. She passed for white, married a white man, and never said another word to any of her children. Any letter she got from my mother or my aunts, she sent right back unopened. Finally, they got the message of no message and let her be. Almost all mulatto types and quadroons did that back in the day. If they had the right kind of hair, that is. Can you imagine how many white folks have Negro blood hiding in their veins? Guess? 20%, I heard. My own mother, Lula May, could have passed easy, but she chose not to. She told me the price she paid for that decision. When she and my father went to the courthouse to get married, there were 2 Bibles, and they had to put their hands on the one reserved for Negroes. The other one was for white people's hand. The Bible. Can you beat it? My mother was a housekeeper for a rich white couple. They ate every meal she cooked and insisted she scrubbed their backs while they sat in the tub, and God knows what other intimate things they had made her do, but no touching of the same Bible. Some of you probably think it's a bad thing to group ourselves according to skin color. The lighter the better. In social clubs, neighborhoods, churches, sororities, even colored schools. But how else can we hold on to a little dignity? How else can we avoid being spit on in a drugstore, elbowed at the bus stop, having to walk in the gutter to let whites have the whole sidewalk, being charged a nickel at the grocer's for a paper bag that's free to white shoppers? Let alone all the name calling. I heard about all of that and much, much more. But because of my mother's skin color, she wasn't stopped from trying on hats or using the ladies' room in the department store. And my father could try on shoes in the front part of the shoe store, not in a back room. Neither one of them would let themselves drink from a colored-only fountain, even if they were dying of thirst. I hate to say it, but from the very beginning in the maternity ward, the baby, Lula Ann, embarrassed me. Her birth skin was pale like all babies, even African ones, but it changed fast. I thought I was going crazy when she turned blue-black right before my eyes. I know I went crazy for a minute because just for a few seconds I held a blanket over her face and pressed. But I couldn't do that, no matter how much I wish she hadn't been born with that terrible color. I even thought of giving her away to an orphanage someplace. But I was scared to be one of those mothers who leave their babies on church steps. Recently, I heard about a couple in Germany, white as snow, who had a dark-skinned baby nobody could explain. Twins, I believe, one white, one colored, but I don't know if it's true. All I know that, for me, nursing her was like having a pickaninny sucking my teeth. I went to bottle feeding soon as I got home. My husband Louis is a porter, and when he got back off the rails, he looked at me like I really was crazy and looked at the baby like she was from the planet Jupiter. He wasn't a cussing man, so when he said, "God damn, what the hell is this?" I knew we were in trouble. That was what did it, what caused the fights between me and him. It broke our marriage to pieces. We had 3 good years together, but when she was born, he blamed me and treated Lula Ann like she was a stranger. More than that, an enemy. He never touched her. I never did convince him that I ain't never ever fooled around with another man. He was dead sure I was lying. We argued and argued till I told him her blackness had to be from his own family, not mine. That was when it got worse. So bad, he just up and left, and I had to look for another, cheaper place to live. I did the best I could. I knew enough not to take her with me when I applied to landlords, so I left her with a teenage cousin to babysit. I didn't take her outside much anyway, because when I pushed her in the baby carriage, people would lean down and peek in to say something nice and then give a start or jump back before frowning. That hurt. I could have been the babysitter if our skin colors were reversed. It was hard enough just being a colored woman, even a high yellow one, trying to rent in a decent part of the city. Back in the 90s, when Lula Ann was born, the law was against discriminating in who you could rent to, but not many landlords paid attention to it. They made up reasons to keep you out. But I got lucky with Mr. Lay, though I knew he upped the rent $7 from what he'd advertised, and he had a fit if you were a minute late with the money. I told her to call me Sweetness, intended of mother or mama. It was safer. Her being that black and having what I think was 2 thick lips and calling me mama would have caused confusion amongst people. Besides, she has funny colored eyes, crow black with a blue tint, something witchy about them too. So it was just us 2 for a long while, and I don't have to tell you how hard it is being an abandoned wife. I guess Louis felt a little bit bad after leaving us like that, because a few months later on he found out where I'd moved to and started sending me money once a month, though I never asked him to and didn't go to the court to get it. His $50 money orders and my night job at the hospital got me and Lula Ann off welfare, which was a good thing. I wish they would stop calling it welfare and go back to the word they used when my mother was a girl. Then it was called relief. Sounds much better, like it's just a short-term breather while you get yourself together. Besides, those welfare clerks are mean as spit. When finally I got work and didn't need them anymore, I was making more money than they ever did. I guess meanness filled out their skimpy paychecks, which was why they treated us like beggars. Especially, they looked at Lula Ann and then back at me, like I was trying to cheat or something. Things got better, but I still had to be careful. Very careful in how I raised her. I had to be strict, very strict. Lula Ann needed to learn how to behave, how to keep her head down and not to make trouble. I don't care how many times she changes her name, her color is a cross she will always carry. But it's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's not. Oh yeah, I feel bad sometimes about how I treated Lula Ann when she was little. But you have to understand, I had to protect her. She didn't know the world. With that skin, there was no point in being tough or sassy, even when you were right. Not in a world where you could be sent to a juvenile lockup for talking back or fighting in school. A world where you'd be the last one hired and the first one fired. She didn't know any of that, or how her black skin would scare white people or make them laugh and try to trick her. I once saw a girl nowhere near as dark as Lula Ann, who couldn't have been more than 10 years old, tripped by one of a group of white boys, and when she tried to scramble up, another one put his foot on her behind and knocked her flat again. Those boys held their stomachs and bent over with laughter. Long after she got away, they were still giggling, so proud of themselves. If I hadn't been watching through the bus window, I would have helped her, pulled her away from that white trash. See, if I hadn't trained Lula Ann properly, she wouldn't have known to always cross the street and avoid white boys. But the lesson I taught her paid off, and in the end, she made me proud as a peacock. I wasn't a bad mother. You have to know that. But I may have done some hurtful things to my only child because I had to protect her. Had to. All because of skin privileges. At first, I couldn't see past all that black to know who she was and just plain love her. But I do. I really do. I think she understands it now. I think so.